Hawkins.
Hey, what's up?
Tell me.
Okay, I will. It's chapter 6. It's chapter 6 of...
I can't see the title. Your hand is on the bottom. Okay. Shackles across
Shackles across time.
Shackles across time.
Yes.
One more minute, please.
Shackles across time.
Okay. Very good. Tell me about it.
Okay, I will. Well, first of all, we're on chapter 6. And
already.
I'll give you a little brief synopsis of chapter 6 before I begin to read it. Jesse L. Simmons, who is like my alter ego, is on a book-selling tour. He's pushing a book he just wrote called Ori. Ori has to do with the spiritual energy of your head and so forth. And he's talking to a bunch of reporters in a hotel room, the hospitality suite that was rented by the Heritage Publishing House co-op operation. Big-time publishing companies do things like that. They give the author a 15-city tour and so forth and so on. He's getting that. And he's talking about his book and his life, and here we go.
Okay.
Jesse L. Simmons, author, casually surveyed the assembled group, a bunch of intellectual parasites. And where, pray tell, did you find inspiration for your story, Mr. Simmons? Well, believe it or not, it was in the penitentiary. I got it off the grapevine, in a manner of speaking. Interesting thing about life in this joint, you can get a hold of information there that people on the outside are never exposed to. The newspaper people, magazine literary types, black and non-black, male and female, lounging around in his hotel suite, courtesy of Heritage Publishing House Incorporated, personal appearances arranged in 11 more cities, a PR man, first class all the way. Laughed indulgently at the irony as they sloshed more scotch into their glasses and made random notes. A good friend of mine named Old Patch, because he only had one eye, but he had superb peripheral vision. Once again, the indulgent laughter. Guess this is what it means when you're a celebrity author with another best-selling book in the stores. Stream of consciousness, don't you see? Yeah, believe it or not, the brother could practically see behind himself. He was a legend in his own time. Anyway, to make a long story short, he pulls up on me in the yard one afternoon. The yard in prison is where social interactions, including murders, often take place. Hey, Buddha! That's what they used to call me because of my almond-shaped eyes and my generous tummy. Hey, I want you to check something out for me. We got this new fish over here talking some crazy shit. I want to know what you think. Everybody in the joint knew, even back then, that I was interested in reading stories, writing stories, telling stories, hearing stories. Mr. Simmons, this was before or after you went to Europe with Ife Ebun, the diva. Chester screwed up a distasteful expression on his face to accompany his answer. Sounds like somebody had been reading my stuff. No, my friend, this was way before. The time frame that I'm relating to dates back to when I was firmly domiciled up in Statesville Penitentiary, Joliet, Illinois. The new fish had a hell of a story to tell. He ran it out to us that he was one of the last remaining direct descendants of a slave trader named Quartey.
Plot thickens.
Quartey. Chester took note of a couple of black reporters perking up. Yeah, an African slave trader on what the British used to call the Gold Coast when they were in control. You say this guy was an African slave trader? one of the white men called out for reaffirmation. Yes, my friend, an African. Don't forget, gentlemen and ladies, it was called the slave trade, which meant that whoever had bodies for sale were in the trade. That's a section of the African human being business that we haven't even started trying to deal with. Now, here's what the new fish laid on us. As I'm sure you all know, in the 1800s, I'm sure, as you all know, in the 1800s, when the U.S. government passed a law that said no more Africans can be imported for the purpose of slavery, remember, y'all, we didn't immigrate.
Mm-hmm.
A white man named Meaher, M-E-A-H-E-R, made a bet with another white man, naturally, that he could successfully defy the federal blockade and run some more people up in here. The bet, according to the new fish and my subsequent research, was for something like $10,000, the equivalent of maybe $100,000 today. Meaher got hooked up with a Captain Foster and commissioned his ship, the Quartey, to do the dirty work. Been that way for a long time, huh? Having a little guy do the dirty work. Several of the white men, not quite sure if he was joking, laughed self-consciously. All right, here goes Captain Foster on the good ship Quartey to steal some more brothers and sisters. Oh, sorry about that. I meant to say buy some more brothers and sisters. After his voyage, Foster pulled up on the west coast of Africa around about 1848 or so, depending on whose calendar you're looking at. It appears from the story that the brother played out on us that the good Captain Foster didn't spend a lot of time lollygagging and jaw-jacking. Mr. Simmons, you say he didn't do what? Just anticipating their linguistic shortcomings. He didn't waste a lot of time, let's put it that way. He dealt with the dealers and prepared to get back onto Alabama to collect his commission and share of human beings. I hate to say slave all the time. It's such a dehumanizing word that gives every indication that the Africans who were captured, kidnapped, stolen, busted, or whatever were slaves from the minute the Euro guys set eyes on them. I'm sure you're all familiar with that sentence that goes, 300 slaves were loaded onto the ship, or the slave trader bought 200 slaves. All of that literary rhetoric is incorrect. Primarily, firstly, for those who can't get into primarily, we were Africans who were enslaved. That's right, Mr. Simmons. A dark-skinned man called out, the old school tie around his neck, forcing the veins out of his throat. Chester acknowledged the man with a cool-headed nod and continued. Any of y'all ever see the deck plan of a slave ship? He smiled maliciously as all of the African-American reporters raised their right hands, and only two of the whites. Chicken shit, motherfuckers. Still in a denial mode, huh? You know damn well you've seen a standing diagram of how people crushed together like sardines, hypocrites. He made an instant decision not to antagonize them by screaming out, "You chicken shit motherfuckers." But anyway, yesterday we were about to sail away. This trader named Quartey comes up with one more body for sale. It's a 20-year-old kid who's one of the surviving members of his family, him and his grandfather, members of a family that had been virtually wiped out by a random slave trading, hunting expedition. That's right, folks. We're talking genocide, Holocaust diaspora here. We don't really want to get into the 10 million who were wiped out in Leopold's Congo, do we? Chester didn't enjoy the weird expression that flitted across the faces of his audience. Well, let's leave all that where it is for the moment. The boy's grandfather begged Trader Quartey not to sell this last member of his family, the future seed of the family. Begged him, according to the new fish's account. The brother who told the story was not absolutely certain why the boy's family had been sold while they owed Trader Quartey cowries. The most profound theory is that the traitor was in love with the girl who was in love with the young man. Whatever. In any case, the young brother was ripped off. His name, incidentally, was Kofi Botang Bokman. The foul deed was done. He was taken aboard the Clotilde, but that's not the end of it. Excuse me, I got to go pee. Chester hopped from his grill chair and beeline to the men's room. His fucking prostate shit. He stood inside the men's room, listening to the amused buzzings of the reporters as he relieved his bladder. Looks like it's time for me to have this little old prostate gland checked out again. He washed his hands and paused to look at himself in the mirror above the wash basin. 60 years old, a little less hair than I used to have, and it's mostly gray. A few more wrinkles at the corners of my eyes. Same old pot belly. No high blood pressure, no heart problems. Still got most of my teeth. Glasses for reading. Shit, I ain't doing too bad at all. Sorry, folks, when you gotta go, you gotta go. You study their cynical smiles and jaded laughter. You could easily get behind their perception of him. A hip old black man, in the old-fashioned sense of the word, and despite the fact that he was a writer, he could see them comparing him to B.B. King, Howlin' Wolf, Red Fox, and Ernest Gaines. If I blew a harmonica or plucked a guitar, I'd have him dancing by now. Now then, where was I? The young man was taken aboard the Clotilde. All right, good. I see I haven't lost you yet. The young man was shipped away despite the grandfather's pleas. What the traitor Quartey failed to consider is that the grandfather had big-time medicine going for him. He was practicing the religion before it was called the religion. In this case, it was probably Paulo. He decided to ignore the blank spaces on most of their faces and plunge onward. Them that knows, know. The old man had powerful medicine going for him, and right there on the beach he put a curse on the traitor Quartey and the Quartey descendants. Quartey had the old man strangled later that night for putting the curse on him. Yeah, it sounds like mafia stuff, right? Mr. Simmons, what was the curse? Chester pretended he hadn't heard the question as he continued speaking. About a month later, Quartey and most of his family was swept up in a slave raid and sold off to Brazil, which didn't abolish its slave business until 1888, as you all know. Talk about poetic justice. The young man who was sold managed to regain his freedom after 10 years of bondage, struggled to get back home, got married, and reestablished himself. Meanwhile, as I understand it, Quartey's descendants were scattered everywhere. Brazil, Barbados, Trinidad, Alabama, Georgia, Mexico. Might be some in this room. Mr. Simmons, is this a true story? No one has been able to prove that it's a lie. What was the curse? You have to buy a copy of the book to find that out. And you say, this is a story that your book is based on? I'd be more comfortable saying interwoven around. Mr. Simmons, couldn't you give us a tiny hint of what the curse was? And is it still operative? Chester stared obliquely at the fleshy young blonde, noting but ignoring her deep cleavage and her firmly packed buttock line. I think the proof of the pudding is in eating. Y'all will be the ones to tell me if we have a well-made dish or not. He enjoyed the puzzled frown on the blonde's face. Try to use your stuff on me, huh? I'll show you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Alan R. Rich, the PR man, right on time. Alan slid up to whisper to Chester's right ear. Chester, that was super. Got a call while you were rapping some kind of reunion group called the Descendants of Quartey or something like that. Thought you might like to check them out. Chester stared at the telephone number Alan handed him. Descendants of Quartey? He had purposefully stuck to the story he had gotten from the man in prison and the field of his own imagination rather than attempt to track family members down. Well, now they were tracking him down. Wonder what it all means. He began to smile and glad-headed his way through the reporters and well-wishers who were still sipping and munching. Descendants of Quartey? Gotta give him a call. Mr. Simmons, may I have your autograph, please? He put on a cold-blooded mask as he reached for the ballpoint and the book she held out to him. Gorgeous young sister, probably not older than 25. Light cocoa-colored, full of bristling hormones. He could feel her body heat as she stood next to him. Full breasts, tiny waistline, flared hips, hot-butted thighs. They were a new breed, these young women. He checked her strong stance, the aggressive eyes and chin line. You lift weights? He asked. Not unless I have to.
Okay.
I'm a freelance writer like yourself. Well then, I guess that gives us something in common to talk about. I should certainly hope so. Why don't you stick around for a bit? I intend to.
Oh, Lord.
Chester study stepped through a few more cynical reporters from the big dailies full of themselves and free scotch. He knew they were going to give his latest book, Ori, good reviews because it had already been stamped approved by a couple of famous white people in the New York literary establishment. It was that simple. If New York approved, you had a leg up on the obstacles ahead. He winked at the gorgeous young black woman as he made his way to the suite's master bedroom to make his call. This will only take a few minutes, he mimed to her. He slowly closed the bedroom door on her lascivious stare. I'm not getting too old for this kind of stuff. He dialed a number that his PR man had given him, his thoughts on the luscious young woman in the other room. Good afternoon. My name is Chester Simmons, and I'm returning a call that was made to me by Dr. Quist-Johnson. Hello, Mr. Simmons. This is Mrs. Quist-Johnson, also Dr. Quist-Johnson. My husband is also Dr. Johnson, which causes a lot of confusion at times. I can imagine. Thank you for returning our call so promptly. No problem. He waited through what had been traditionally called a pregnant pause. Mr. Simmons, we have just finished reading Ori, your latest book, and we think it's a marvelous work. Thank you, Dr. Quist-Johnson. I'm glad you enjoyed the book. We'd like to have you join us for dinner tomorrow evening, if that's convenient for you. My husband said, you know the man is on tour and he has a busy schedule. Chester did a quick mental flip of his tour schedule, weighed a few priorities. Dr. Quist-Johnson, my PR man made me understand that you are a descendant of a man named Quartey. He felt a twinge of embarrassment, but how else could he ask? Yes, that's true. We traced the genealogical charts. I'm one of the direct descendants. What time is dinner? 6:30? See you tomorrow evening. It'll be a pleasure to have you. He hung up the phone and sat on the side of the bed thinking. The writing life is so strange. There were times when he felt that the subject or the thing or the event that he was writing about had to come to be because he had written it into being. It was almost mysterious. Am I creating a situation for it to be, or is it creating me? Quartey's descendants. The only one he had met, the one who claimed to be a descendant, was the brother in the joint who had supplied him with the framework for his novel. Were these people the types who jumped out of the woodwork the minute they thought they had a chance to share a bit of newspaper print? His intuition said, no, not the Quists. This is the real deal. Well, I'll find out tomorrow evening at dinner. Dinner? Where? The phone ringing jarred him. Yes, Chester Simmons here. Mr. Simmons, we closed off our conversation before I had a chance to give you our address and directions. Chester smiled. Yeah, we got the real deal here. Chester stared at the ceiling, his hands nestled in the palms of his hands, thinking. He made a serious effort to start each day thinking, reconstituting the day before, picking through it to see what he should have done or if he should have done something different, whatever it was. And finally, working it all the way up to the present. He turned slightly to his left to stare into the face of the beautiful young woman sleeping by his side. His eyes traced the outline of the firm chin line, the gorgeously curved mouth, the flaring nostrils, the sultry almond-shaped eyes. A mistake. Intelligent, sexy, but empty. He couldn't quite place his emotional finger of what was missing. Maybe it's got something to do with condoms. Maybe that's it. It's like the real feelings have been covered up. You can go as deep as you think you want to, but the feelings are still covered up. He smiled at the idea. Bullshit, it's probably something in me that ain't happening. He was into the end of the first week of his 12-city PR tour and had already slept with 4 different women. It was almost an impersonal thing. During the course of an autograph session or while questions and answers were being played back and forth, someone would hit on him. Or he would flirt himself into someone's willing arms. He turned away from the beautiful face to stare up at the ceiling again. Oh well, thus begins my day. 8:30 a.m. Alan Rich's anxious triple tapping on his bedroom door stirred him out of his daydreaming. Yes, Alan here, Chester. Just wanted to remind you, we're scheduled for this lady's literary society thing over in Lamert Park at 10 o'clock. Thanks, Alan. See you down the lobby at 9:30. Right. Guy's like a metronome. He does nothing but keep time. The tapping on the door had awakened his bedmate. Good morning, Mr. Simmons. He felt like laughing aloud in a formal way. I think it would be entirely appropriate under the circumstances to just call me Chester. She flashed a glittery white smile at him and stretched her arms up for a sexy arm, inviting Chester to move closer. Another day was happening. 45 minutes later, he strolled into the lobby to keep his appointment, the gorgeous young woman at his side. Alan Rich took a deep, involuntary breath, staring at the woman's bust line. Chester decided not to introduce them. Can we give you a lift somewhere? No need to. I'm parked in the garage around the corner. He was beginning to feel a bit awkward. Well, Sylvia Banks. They both smiled. Well, Sylvia, as you probably know, I'll be in town until tomorrow night. And then I'm off to Dallas, New Orleans, Birmingham, Atlanta, Richmond, Philly, Baltimore, New York, Boston, New Hampshire, Portland, Maine. Sounds like you're going to be on the move. How will I get in touch with you? I left my card on your desk. Call me sometimes. I will. She strutted away, sprinkling her fingers in a goodbye wave. Alan Rich couldn't resist staring at the smooth, swiveling motion of her hips. Chester, we've got the car in front. Chester watched her dissolve into a small group of people exiting a side door. Beautiful woman, but a little empty. I'm with you, Alan, lad. I'm with you. Bright, sunshiny day in L.A., La La Land, USA. He settled into a velvet corner of the back seat of the limo, thinking randomly pleasant thoughts about the women he was meeting during the course of his tour. They make me feel like a baseball player or a basketball player. Which one of them wrote a book and declared he had slept with 2,000 women? Chamberlain. Yeah, Walter Still. I can believe it now. I didn't believe it then. He took a surreptitious peek at himself in the rearview mirror. What's the attraction? Just to say I slept with a star? That's all some women, some men care about, brand names and labels. We'll have lunch at the Maison, meet with a couple biggies, get you back to the hotel for a couple hours of siesta per your instructions, and then this evening at 7, Alan, slow down. I've made an appointment to have dinner at 6 with members of the Quartey family. Quartey? You know, from my book. Oh yeah, right. Slipped my mind for a sec. Dinner at 6, you say? 6:30. Just a smile watching the cinders spin around in the busy man's head. Well, let me see. We had you scheduled to meet with a writer's workshop at Los Angeles City College at 5, but I guess we'll have to make that expendable. I mean, let's face it, you only have another day here, and you can't be everywhere at the same time. You got that right. Once again, this cylinders whirl. Members of the family, descendants of the slave trader in your book? Well, one of them is, that's what she said. You know something, Chester? Maybe this could work out to be something. Why don't I make an arrangement to get a photographer over there with you, alert the local TV station, book this thing up a bit, you know what I mean?
No.
No, Alan, we're not going for any publicity on this one. I've been invited to dinner, period. Sure, Chester, no problem. This is your show all the way. Chester stared out of the window at sunny Los Angeles, hating the Alan Riches of the world. They're so spineless, yet so necessary, and in their own way, ruthless. They're going to survive and thrive like cockroaches, no matter what happens. Ah, well. Now then, let me see what the hell can I say to the Ladies' Lit Society of Leimert Park. Ladies, you should have seen the old boy last night. You would have been proud of me. And thus, we come to the end of chapter 6.
Oh my goodness.
And we will be starting on chapter 7 tomorrow.
All right.
Meanwhile, I'll give you a little preview. This is dinner with the Quist. Cornish rock hens, wild rice, asparagus, a wonderfully tasty salad. We grow these greens in the backyard. A beautifully complimentary French wine, Vouvray. Cognac and brandy with grilled cherries for dessert. And that's where we'll start on chapter 7.
Wow. Coming together.
It better.
Okay. So again, we have...
Is my hand in the way? Is my feet in the way?
Yeah, there you go. We got there, it is Shackles Across Time, which can be wiggle, okay, can be purchased on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. You go to Barnes & Noble and ask, or go on the internet and ask for Shackles Across Time, a book by Hawkins. And you can even go to your local bookstore and ask them to order a copy of Shackles Across Time by Hawkins. His website is odihawkins.com.
Can I say this before we come to an end of this evening?
Yes, sir.
We would both like to say, both myself and so does Salena-Hawkins, the person who designed this perfectly wonderful cover.
Thank you.
As you can see, Shackles Across Time surrounds Africa. There's a lot of meaning, symbolism. I'd like to say this to all of the people who've been contacting us and offering such wonderful support for the thing we're doing, the readings that I'm doing. And hopefully my residuals in the coming quarter will reflect your intense interest in my book. Thank you so much. Good night.
Good night.